Hello everyone, I am thirteene, and today we're going to be visiting an old deck from Saffron Olive. So this deck is Teferi Lock. Once upon a time, Saffron Olive actually ran this budget magic list. Once upon a time was actually a little over a year ago. But what this deck is trying to do is put out Teferi and a card that makes it so that you cast a different card than the one you're attempting to cast, and have something that makes it so that they get locked out and cannot cast another spell. So, kind of looking at the deck, we got a couple of new fun cards. We are technically a lock deck. We have a couple of lock pieces like Rip and Blood Moon main board. Rip's kind of become a necessity in the current modern format, and Tron has become really reliable with the new Mulligan rule. And then we're going to try to win the game by putting out a Teferi, Lavinia, or new Teferi, and having a Knowledge Pool or Possibility Storm. So, Knowledge Pool and Possibility Storm are both really fun cards. I absolutely love Possibility Storm in EDH. Sometimes we sit down to play EDH and we have four at the table. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. But we get a couple of new fun cards that have come out. Teferi makes it so that if an opponent would cast a spell at any time, they could cast a sorcery. Lavinia makes it so that if an opponent tries to cast a spell for free, we counter it. OG Teferi is each opponent can only cast spells anytime they can cast a sorcery. And then the specific wording on Knowledge Pool and Possibility Storm are you cast a spell, you can either cast a spell under Knowledge Pool or off the top of your deck that shares a card type with it. Because there's something on the stack, to cast a sorcery, it has to be during your main phase with nothing else on the stack. We currently have triggers for Knowledge Pool or Possibility Storm. You can't cast that spell. Hard locked out of the game. No, it is possible. If the opponent already has a good board state and we lock them out of the game, we can potentially lose. But Teferi lets us tuck. Hero of Dominaria Teferi also allows us to tuck. Lavinia is just a bear with upside, potentially good against certain strategies. Then we end up running Blood Moon, Rest in Peace, just powerful cards. Full suite of Jeskai powerhouses. I didn't realize how much of a fan I was of Blood Moon up until I started doing these videos, and I'm like, oh great, like every time that I have a lightning bolt, I want to showcase it because it's just such a powerful magic card. And that's the deck. So, if you like this concept, this budget list was actually a really good video. Saffron Olive did an amazing job with it. He ended up using Aetherling as his win condition. You can basically just dump a bunch of mana into it, make it massive. You can exile it so it's hard to answer. He's got a full suite of Azorius spells. I ended up splashing red just because of the new Mulligan rules, and I actually preferred Possibility Storm over Knowledge Pool. But just got control, Teferi lock on top of it, powerful lock pieces, and that's what we registered today. So, got our first match. We're going to see how this goes. I'm actually quite excited for new Teferi. New Teferi is going to be interesting in a lot of matchups. He's also going to make it so that we can cast our Serum Visions in this deck. At instant speed, not honestly the best, but it's a card, it does things. Here we have a Lavinia and nothing else going on. I think that has to be a mulligan. Ooh boy. Alright, well, we get to shock that in. We get to sculpt our hand a little bit. Because of Blood Moon, I wasn't overly on board with all the Celestial Colonnades. It's a really good card, and it's an alternate win condition. It's a good way to be down after we end up getting our lock in place, but just slightly rough. We do have our lock here, but not lands. I think I'm going to ship back Possibility Storm. We have multiple cantrips to try to sculpt our way into a good hand. Opponent's on the mulligan to 5. And we get to get our spells on. Alright, Mana Leak's pretty decent. We have no basics, so this gets to go to the bottom. This Rip is kind of showing a little bit of awkwardness here. Depending on what opponent's playing, this could either be really good or really bad. But Rip has taken the place of Snapcaster and Blue-White Control. The fact that he can attack makes it a little bit better in Jeskai, but Jeskai Burn is like our plan C. I think for now we're going to put this to the bottom and just hope opponent's not on Dredge. Alright, so Island could mean Phoenix. I would have potentially wanted my Rips there. But now I get a Colonnade, hold up Spell Snare, hopefully hit a thing in the ice if it is Phoenix. Ooh, Sacred Foundry doesn't actually mean a whole lot here. Red out Celestial Colonnade will look a lot more like Blue-White Control. Alright, and opponent's not doing anything. Cool. So I get to Serum Vision, start setting up my hand, still hold up Spell Snare, and potentially these two guys. Alright, so if opponent is Grixis Death's Shadow, this path is going to be good. If they are just an off-color fetch land for Phoenix, path's still going to be pretty good. I think I'm just looking for a lock piece at this point, so go ahead and put that to the bottom. We can keep an additional land. And if this is Shadow, I do care about my life total, but I'm just going to shock this into play. It gives us the most upside. Plus, we look so much like Jeskai control here. Just so much. Alright, so it's looking a little bit more like blue-white. This Teferi is going to be real good. Real good. This Teferi is actually just like a game breaker. It turns off all of their counter spells. So I'm going to wait to run it out until I can protect it with Mana Leak. And opponent's set up for Blood Moon. I'm just going to grab another shock land. We currently have 3 white sources, so it'll be a Steam Vents. And Lavinia is pretty decent bait, although I need to leave up red. So I'm inclined to actually Spell Snare this. It prevents them from drawing a card, and I'm okay to win this counter war. Putting a little bit of pressure down seems good here. Alright, and opponent did the correct thing. They actually remanded their remand, so they gotta draw an additional card and keep a remand in hand. But now they have to answer our Lavinia. Ooh. That actually doesn't do what I thought it did. I thought I could tuck a Planeswalker like Big Teferi. Let's see what they want to do. Alright, so with this... Oh, whoops. Yeah, I can't do that because of his passive. I actually haven't played with New Teferi yet. Alright, let's go ahead and hit their Teferi. Yep, as expected. We'll go ahead and go get our basic. And then I'm going to run out my Teferi as well, while still holding up the Bolt. Because I kind of don't care about theirs. Theirs is actually kind of just helping us with our cause. And now I believe that the way that this stacks up, so each opponent can only cast spells anytime they can cast a sorcery. You may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. So instants and sorceries for both of us have basically just hot swapped around. That's funny. Okay then, so first things first, let's go ahead and Bolt Teferi. Opponent can't do anything to interact with it. We can cast our sorceries. Get to run out my girl Lavinia. Apply a little bit more pressure. Hitting land drops is completely fine here. Mana Leak is losing a lot of value, but it's going to be able to snag Big Teferi. And we are just a lock piece away from being super productive. Alright, so right now I'm trying to assess the value of bouncing something and drawing a card. I think being able to do that twice is high enough upside that I'm going to path this Celestial Colonnade, despite the fact I kind of don't care about the Teferi. As long as opponent's tapped out, anything that... Oh, okay. Opponent, we didn't even really play a real deck here. Alright, well, I feel like Snapcasters get value here, at least more than Rest in Peace. Blue-White has been playing a lot of Graveyard Hate, and we didn't show anything to our opponent that actually represented this, so they're likely not touching their Graveyard Hate. This is always weird. There's not really a card I'd prefer to see over it. Opponent's the traditional Blue-White list, so Core Firewalker is only going to trigger off of us. But it is an additional threat. We don't have dispels. Board clears don't do anything. Yeah, this is kind of awkward. Did not come ready for the control list in mind. Kind of figured Teferi would be strong enough on his own, but our opponent's playing it too. Funny enough, depending on how we sequence things, our opponent could actually lock us out using our own combo. Alright, on the draw, Spell Snare is fantastic. It usually means that you get to put out an island and then counter their 2-drop. Mana Leaks are fine. Possibility Storm is kind of cute. I at least have counter magic, and I'm expecting this to develop slowly. I'd prefer to not lose card count and kind of just try to do something playable. Scalding Tarn here is allowing me to Spell Snare, also allowing me to get a tap land if opponent's just fetching for land drops, which it looks like they are. Alright, and opponent is slow rolling. So we currently have white, blue, additional way to get a blue. Looks like I'm probably going for a Hollowed Fountain here. I'm always feeling inclined to go get a Hollowed Fountain just so I can Terminus off the top, but that's not necessarily correct in this case. We don't have Terminus in our deck. We're a bad control deck. Alright, so Steam Vent Shock would represent Mana Leak and Serum Visions. I'm expecting a Jace from my opponent this turn, unless I'm actually representing the counter magic. I do not need the additional lands. I have plenty, although this is my 5th land drop. I do need my 5th land drop so that I can actually Possibility Storm. Then that means that I need to represent Mana Leak. Island here means I can Lavinia still with Mana Leak up. I'm okay to make opponents start committing for spells. Because honestly, there's only a couple of cards in my opponent's deck I care about, and as long as I can win that counter war, I'm happy. Long term, though, these Mana Leaks do go down in value, so they are going to be firing off fairly quickly. Alright, so Steam Vent Shock means I can Spell Snare, Mana Leak, Snap, Serum. Ugh. Alright, let's attack and see what happens. At the end of the game, 2 damage here or there doesn't matter, but this does require my opponent to actually commit into something. My life total isn't actually under pressure, so I'm okay to just take the shock here, represent doing the most amount of things. Alright, path is alright. So Taylor Swift Spear is a 1/2 pokes. Creatures attack. I wonder what a bear does. Is it bear thrashes in for damage? Huh. Took shocks for no reason. Interesting. Yep, playing some Teferi Lock. Which does in fact mean Possibility Storm. Firing off Serum Visions here means that I'm not going to have the mana leak for the remand, but that's all fine. Oh, Teferi is fantastic. Kind of don't care about the Lightning Helix here. Welcome back, though, Seraphix. I stuck around and watched Ivantos. I can't remember what his name is. I'm so bad with names. He was doing a pretty good job last night. Alright, so I can't crack the fetch here. I actually have to draw the Teferi. The fact that I'm going to have to discard to hand size is a little telling, but I'm happy to do it. The Sylvania is not actually doing a whole lot. Discarding the path, like they don't even have any man lands out. Opponent's also at 9 life. Like, they're going to have to start doing something here. Okay. If they would have actually done that last turn for Teferi, I actually might have cared. And discard the path here. It's not relevant. Alright, so there's this Teferi, which means I can flash in this guy but won't be able to protect him. I can double Mana Leak. I can Mana Leak, Snap, Mana Leak. Which seems like highest upside. Then if Teferi resolves, I really don't care what he does. Actually, this seems fine. Huh. I actually don't know what I want to do here. Because if I tap out opponent, then... yeah, I just have to tap out opponent, and hopefully they'll interact with my Snapcaster. So awkward. Mana Leak is not good enough as a permanent answer. I needed Dispels. Okay, Snapcaster trigger resolves. We get to Mana Leak Teferi again. Yep, now opponent can't do anything. That means I can resolve... ooh. If I resolve Possibility Storm, I'm locked out of the game. Each opponent can only cast spells anytime they could cast a sorcery, so that means Teferi has to come down now. Oh my gosh. So awkward. I should have kept that Lightning Helix. Really need to keep that Lightning Helix. I actually could have just burnt opponent out. Alright, well, as long as we're priced into this, let's go ahead and Teferi here. Snapcaster's still a live draw. What does Snap Serum actually accomplish, though? We didn't show them that we were a creature deck in game 1, though. All they saw was Lavinia. If they kept in their board clears, I'd be astounded. Hey, look at that! Alright, so we got locked out. They're doing literally the exact same thing as us. Go figure. Alright, so what I was trying to explain in the deck tech. Teferi makes it so that we can't cast spells unless they had a sorcery. Knowledge Pool makes it so that If you cast a spell, you'd cast something under Knowledge Pool instead. So you can't cast the second spell under Knowledge Pool as long as Teferi's out. That is interesting. Ceremonious rejection for Pool seems horrible. Stony Silence doesn't actually do anything. Like, it's literally our same combo. The player on the play took the game both times around, except we're Jeskai. Alright, well, ship it back. We were not set up for a control matchup, so concessions are made. Lightning Helix isn't good enough. Oh, that is some garbage right there. Alright, we keep this. We ship back that guy, and oh god. It's happening. Well, slow control deck versus slow control deck, I suppose. But it's already 7-5, so opponent's already ahead by quite a margin. And no, you will wait for us to get our fetch land. Why do they have to have basics? Makes the Blood Moon so bad. Because when you cast a spell for free off of Possibility Storm or Knowledge Pool, it'd get countered. So this is basically a 2-mana Teferi. Yeah, and with everything being legendary, like if I take a look at the split of the deck, I end up having 2 of the creature Teferis, 2 of the new Planeswalker Teferis, and 3 Lavinias. Lavinia does get to come down as a bear and also represents a real clock. I actually think I just need to try to stick Teferi here and hope and pray. Opponent's currently off of white, and they only showed us remands. So, worst case, I'm going to get remanded. Yep, there's the remand. Yeah, Mage Teferi actually has done pretty well for me when I've thrown him in random janky decks. Like, he's Venser power level of, like, you don't necessarily expect him to do anything, but he's been pretty decent. Alright, so opponent with 3 mana here. I don't think that they actually have any hard pieces. Hard counter pieces. Like, I might get remanded again, but I don't think he has anything hard. Oh, he has Delvin's Veto? Really? Alright, well, opponent's definitely playing with the new spice. Path pretty cleanly answers Lavinia. Like, it's even going to get around Mana Leak at this point. Yep. Alright, draw a bolt for me. I guess a redundant Lavinia will do it. I can't even counter opponent's stuff now because of Teferi being out. He is. Alright, well, you don't have a colonnade. You probably have a path, and I won't be able to counter the path. So opponent actually is starting to understand that, like, we're doing the same thing. We had to mulligan just a little too hard here. And that's game. Alright, well, we played against the mirror. I've said it before, I'll say it again. 2-color decks are more streamlined in Modern. We do get to run Blood Moon, but a lot of people have been touched inappropriately by Blood Moon, so it's not nearly as good as it once was. Green-Black is more favored over Jund. Like, I'm guessing that opponent's build was more streamlined than ours. They had not considered Lavinia. Yeah, we have creatures. They have paths. Like, it kind of just worked out. Bolt's a little bit more flexible, considering the fact that we had 4 bolts and 2 lightning helixes. I would have expected to see something a little bit more shoot planeswalkery in our deck, but just didn't have the answer for Teferi. Opponent did probably have the lock for Knowledge Pool in their hand in that last game, but they had to deal with our Lavinia before they could do anything. That's why they acknowledged the fact that we were running Lavinia. Was like, oh, I'm going to be locked out of this too. You're going to have a Lavinia, and I'm going to have a Teferi. Kind of interesting, though. It's funny that the opponent's playing the same thing that we are. Yeah, I'm not sure if the red's worth it. Blood Moon can win a lot of matchups. I've just been playing so much Tron lately. It felt like having Blood Moon in the deck felt like the only way we're going to beat that matchup. We also get the main board rips. Like, there's fun things to be had, but opponent was just a more streamlined version of our deck and actually had hate pieces for us. Alright, let's see if we get a little bit better here. What is this hand? Oh. Curse of Exhaustion's the thing where they can't cast a spell, right? Like, I feel like Seth just did a deck on that. We're going to keep this, hopefully control the opponent for a little while, and potentially draw into a lock piece. With this hand, yeah. So basically exactly what we wanted. I'm keeping this on the strength of Bolt, and hopefully Bolt's going to go the distance here. Sometimes it does, a lot of times it doesn't. And it's Tron. Alright, so we draw into Blood Moon, which means I need to start... Oh, Lavinia is, like, awesome versus Blood Moon. Yeah, alright, so let's just put a couple of these at opponent. I can't imagine I find a home for them. Oh, and Teferi. Alright. Teferi, Teferi, Teferi. I like what I'm seeing so far. I wanted to go get basics, but... You do you, opponent. Opponent's pausing and being like, who the heck is running Lavinia in Modern? Alright, let's see what you got. This is such a good vintage card, too. Like, every time that I've watched a vintage video and somebody's had a Lavinia out, it's just, like, so one-sided, it's not even worth watching. Alright, so I suppose this is the turn where we find out if opponent has a Dismember or not. And I'm going to run Teferi out and bounce their Expedition map. I feel like if I can slow roll it as much as possible, I want to. This is going to grab our basic plane, so if we do draw Blood Moon, we're not completely shafted. So return target artifact, creature, enchantment to its owner's hand, draw a card. This is mainly to draw a card. Ooh, another Bolt. Alright, so we have 9 in hand. Opponent's dead in 3 turns. We do have Serum Visions in our deck. It doesn't mean that that's a good card, or that it's worth having, but... Yeah, but I'm afraid of Blood Moon. Like, if I draw a Blood Moon, I'm very happy, but if I draw a Blood Moon, I can't cast it. Alright, first things first. Ooh, Possibility Storm. Alright, the lock is on. I do need another red source for the lock to be on, though, so these guys can go to the bottom. Get our Teferi Plus value. Yeah, I probably misfetched on the way, but who knew that we were going to draw Lightning Bolt number 3? Alright, opponent has Tron. That actually stops our combo. Could have saved Teferi for a turn. Because they can just pop this now. Alright, another Lavinia is alright though. Another Lavinia means that if they pop this, we still get to do all the fun stuff. Blow it now? You're a scholar and gentleman, buddy. Thank you for not waiting until our in-step when it actually would have mattered. Alright, run it back. I believe that's the term. Opponent is getting up to hard casting Worm Coil, which is unfortunate. Yep. Alright, so can't cast big Teferi. Little Teferi would be nice. So the way that Lavinia works is they can't cast anything unless they have that number of lands. They currently have... Wait, 5 lands? Yeah, wait, what? Oh, it's non-creature? Okay. Well, that's less good. Still going to bolt opponent. Basically, any of the bounce effects are still live. Serum Vision's technically a decent redraw. Mana Leak a thing. Teferi's another lock piece. Mana Leak's only going to cover an Ulamog, which is going to be slow. Ugh. Well, we're one turn off of having the lock. Now, I still have a very small amount of time. The question is, do I actually want this Mana Leak? Oh, I'm not even going to draw it this turn, so it doesn't matter. Because what this means is next turn I get a Possibility Storm, and then when I Possibility Storm, they're not going to be able to cast anything from their hand. And then I just have to deal with the Worm Coil on the table while I'm able to cast things. Opponent's going to be gaining a ton of life here. What other instance do I even have in my deck? Let's see. So if I cast Bolt, I can get Helix, Remand, Mana Leak, or Path. Alright, so I need to get a red source here, and I probably want to get a blue source in case I do draw Teferi. Alright, Possibility Storm is a card. Alright, well, it usually doesn't take long to check off the main thing I want to do in a video, and tonight was cast Possibility Storm with a Lavinia out. So, combo here. Whenever a player casts a spell from their hand, they exile it, then cast another card for free. Lavinia says if whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent on it, counter it. So, opponent is officially locked out here. Opponent said that's a sweet combo. So, any Planeswalker gets me one of the Teferis. Lightning Bolt's potentially going to get me a Path. Alright, this still works. So, cast Teferi, get the other Teferi. This Teferi comes out. Now opponent just can't cast anything, let alone have it be countered. We get to bounce that to hand and draw a card. And we just took it back. All right. And you said we dead. Never dead. All right. Blood Moon's in here for this matchup. Stony Silence comes in. Rip comes out. Ooh, boy. Bolt's never fantastic. I guess that means Helix comes out first. Lavinia is a hate bear. Lavinia is actually the entire reason we won that game. Remand is okay for buying a turn, but I'm not overly excited about it. Guess it's Spell Snare. Hitting a Sylvan Scrying just doesn't feel good enough. Ship it back. Alright, we have Paths, Ceremonious Rejection, Stony Silence. Is this good enough? The two Paths are awful. Blood Moon is just such a beating. I know opponent brought in their 4 Nature's Claims, though, which means that I can have a Stony Silence on turn 2, hold up Ceremonious Rejection. I just have so many good hate pieces. When I said I had good hate pieces, I didn't want to draw 3 Blood Moons in a single land. Oh boy. Alright, well, this is looking a little bit better. So many hate pieces. Serum Visions will be finding me a land here. Stony Silence is probably going to eat the first Nature's Claim. Bolt's definitely going back, and then probably Lavinia. It doesn't stop Wormcoil. Opponent kept 6, which means they have a pretty decent hand. Oh, okay. Starting off on Try and Land is always a good thing for me. I was 100% expecting to play this matchup, though. Came packing the Tron hate. Walking Ballista. Alright, well, I guess it's a good thing we sent back that... whatever it's called. The card that does things. Mana Leak. Ugh. I'm not going to be able to protect anything until at least turn 4. Arid Mesa can get me another basic, though, so go ahead and keep that on top. Alright, the lands are coming. Opponent grabbing a power plant means that they likely have tower in hand. Oh, crap. I ran out the wrong land. So what needed to happen here was Arid Mesa was going to go get the plane so I could get Stony Silence online this turn. Flooded Strand's my only blue fetch in hand, which means it has to get me an island if I'm going to be Blood Mooning. Alternatively, I can just try to buy a turn. No, I'm going to have to Blood Moon. So, there we go. The punts are real. Alright, and the way opponents sequence this means that they can Nature's Claim and still have Tron available. Teferi doesn't really help at all. Oh well, I guess we just Blood Moon and see if they've got the Nature's Claim. If they have Nature's Claim and Tron, we did what we could. Okay, apparently not. They're cycling for it. There may be hope yet. Haha, opponent. Oh, we would have drawn the island. Lame. Alright, well, little did you know, opponent, we covered that basis too. All the hate pieces. Alright, now we're just a single... Teferi here's going to bounce Oblivion Stone, just tax their mana more. If they have Nature's Claim, they're going to hit the Stony Silence first, then blow up the Blood Moon. And that was poor sequencing. I guess it wouldn't have mattered. No, I ran out the land. If I waited on the land, I could see what I could draw and see if island was good enough. Oh. Well, I guess I can't do anything yet. Creature? Path is basically a creature. Go get another land, you opponent. I don't have pressure yet. You're single turn away from hard casting Karn as it is. Remand here could hit that to recycle a card, but I'd prefer to hit something big. Because they can just recast that. I've only drawn a card as opposed to buying a full turn from them tapping out for a Karn. And they're not doing anything else this turn, so I do actually need to recycle it now. Oh boy, running out of time. Argument to run out the other Blood Moon. So they can still pop Oblivion Stone the turn it comes down. Nope, Blood Moon has to stay in hand. The math there was if they had a Nature's Claim with the Oblivion Stone, they could still pop it and blow everything. Yep, as expected. Yeah, take our island. Well, that's not what I wanted. And that's gonna... Well, I have to try to draw into something here. Path is not something. So I think we just lost. Because Karn can deal with whatever permanents we draw. We need 2 pieces to go off, and I just had to trade into Teferi for one of them. I guess Big Teferi could tuck this Karn. And then I could Ceremonious Rejection it on the way back down. Although that line just went out. Yep, now they can take out Stony Silence on a whim, go cycle all the cards in hand. I don't think Bolt actually buys me any time. Oh! Hello. I am so bad at this game. We can kill Karn. I've played this game before, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Well, that officially bought us a turn. Actually, that bought us a lot of turns. Oh, never mind. I was proud of myself. I actually accomplished something. Show me an Ulamog. Yeah, that's good enough for me. We're not doing anything else there. Alright, we have the sideboard pieces. We're not going to mold a 5. We're going to do good things. And ship it on back. Yeah, I don't know what we could have changed there. We did everything pretty well. We just drew a little out of sequence. Gave them too much time. We didn't apply enough pressure. We needed to get one of these 5 cards. I'd love to play first. And a single land just is not going to cut it. That's a little bit better. Tuck the Knowledge Pool. And we start setting up. Although I like blue mana. Blue mana is best mana. Basic is fine, don't really need a path. My opponent kept 7. Tron has become very, very, very good under the London Mulligan rule. Like, they're not even going to try to bluff the fact that they might not be completely stocked. Alright, well, let's see what we can do. I think what we're going to do is get Karned, and then Ceremonious Rejection, and hopefully have a shot. We get to counter you. Otherwise, you're just going to take that anyway. I guess we would have gotten a redraw from our path, but we would have given our opponent a land. Probably not good enough. Teferi is a shot. If you hit a land, we're probably done. Okay. Land. Oh, deck. Be cool, deck. And opponent is officially flooded with mana. Like, not even a single cantrip or anything to get there off the 7. That's a pretty good start. Yep, goodbye Colonnade. We still can technically top deck a land. Mana Leak's not going to get us there. If they go down again, Bolt can kill them and we can start slow rolling. Oh, never mind, it's -3. Yep, we're moving on with our lives. GG's opponent. Wow, not a great start. Not a great start at all. London Mulligan rule has been very, very kind to Tron, though. Like, I understand opponent kept a Nutter Butter 7 on game 3, but just allows them to actually... Oh my gosh. I have 3 redraws. I'm keeping this. I'm keeping this and I'm going to get yelled at. The London Mulligan has given them the opportunity to have most of their land starting out, though. It's really nice being able to mulligan down pretty low and have everything that you need. I do think 8-rack is probably way better positioned in the meta. When I ran that, I did have a pretty good shot at it. Wow, no lands. No lands at all. I did draw a second Teferi, though. What you doing up here, buddy? And we get to play against humans. Blood Moon, again, losing value. The cast counters are losing a ton of value as well. Remand has just got awful. They get Cavern of Souls as well as... what are the odds that they're going to try to Thalia? They're going to try to Thalia. They get Cavern of Souls to go uncounterable, though. Aether Vial to put stuff in for free. Our combo actually doesn't stop them from putting stuff in for free. That's making me think I probably want a Pithy Needle somewhere in the sideboard, or potentially just in the 75 somewhere. Yep, out comes the champion. They just drew it for turn. Yep, hello champion. Ooh, and a noble. Alright, so opponent got a really good read on that. They sequenced that exactly how they should have. And now our Blood Moon is pretty much officially shut off. Poor sequencing. I should have fetched first before Serum Visioning. Now if I scry, I can ruin it by actually going to get a land. Like now, if I do anything, I'm going to have to crack to go get a white for this Path to Exile. Which... they can Thalia... I'm We're going to do it in response to the trigger for the Aether Vial. They shouldn't have Spell Queller, so I'm okay to let them untap. Pathing now means that they won't have the untap basic during their turn. But our awkward hand is continuing to be awkward. Oh, I'm going to try to see if they can attack first. I am just all over the place at the given moment. I want to try to get them to get Exalted triggers and then kill it. Man, sloppy today. Very, very sloppy. I basically gave my opponent the read, though, that we probably have a Lightning Helix, and I figured it was worth waiting. I don't like that. That's a mean card. It also means that there's probably a Thalia or a Phantasmal Image with this Aether Vial on it. Alright, what you trying to do? Try to Mantis Rider the Ziggurat has to hit the... Oh, okay. Alright, I just want to get my F6 value. It's correct to wait for them to attack, but they don't have anything with haste. Okay, that seems mildly loose. I mean, I guess it's going to be bigger than a 2/2 pretty soon here, but... Oh my gosh. Oh, the horribleness. And Blood Moon's going to lock me out of the game. Oh, ah. With nothing in hand, though, I'm not sure if Champion's the thing that you necessarily want to be shooting for. Alright, well that's going to buy me another turn of attacks. But my lock pieces cost 5 and I'm not seeing mana. Already at 8 against humans. Not a great position. All of our sweepers are on the side. There's a Thalia. Perfectly okay, we're not multi-spelling this turn anyway. Actually, targeting the champion, because it'll die and they won't get a land. Plus it has the greatest shot of growing. Yeah, alright, that's game. No point in even trying to run it out. So, Wrath of God Supreme Verdict. These have different names for this matchup. Settle the Wreckage also comes in. It's mildly awkward, but it's instant speed, which is why we have to have it. Opponent doesn't care about their graveyard, so Rips come out, Snapcasters go in. Never bring in Stony Silence just for Aether Vial. As far as cuts, Remand is awful. Mana Leak's kind of bad. Blood Moon can still hemorrhage them, we just didn't have the ability to fetch correctly there. We've had a lot of mana impacted mulligan decisions, and I'm not overly excited about that. How do we not have white? Alright, whatever. This is Tuck and Knowledge Pool. We'll have some interaction. Let's see, so we're running... That's Seth's list. We have 4, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 21. That doesn't seem right. Let's go take a peek. 23 lands. Yeah, so... Don't know why we're having issues. We have serums and fetches and everything to set it up. Alright, another bolt's good. The way that you end up winning this is you just one for one them until you end up having more cards in hand and they're not getting the benefited synergy from everything on the table. Yep, Vial's why we took out our counter magic, and basic land is going to make our paths better. If I don't expect to kill anything this turn, I'm just going to get a plains. Might telegraph what we're doing, but this early in the game, it's typically not correct a path to give your opponent the tempo advantage. Alright, so this is the Thalia's Lieutenant Champion in response. Oh, just a Thalia. Okay. All the basics. Ooh, that's a fun one. I haven't dealt with Thalia yet just because the timing doesn't necessarily require it. I can still Lightning Bolt and Path. So I get to see what opponent does and actually try to prioritize my choices. And I actually do think I'm going to kill this pre-combat. We have kind of a slow hand and I'm expecting to need to grind out a little bit. If they end up following it up with another Thalia, we'll just take a turn off and do what we need to. Bye, Thalia. I do love this art, though. Phantasmal Image? What's the wording on this? So if I return a Phantasmal Image, the ability gets countered. Alright, well this is a good target for Path. Still kill a creature, don't ramp opponent. Noble, noble, noble. And Flooded Strand can get us a non-basic as well as allow us to cast both of the 1 CMC cards in hand if we go around Thalia. Also, don't need to immediately make the decision regarding Teferi. Hello, Matt. Oh, Sin Collector. Alright, well, this is going to get an instant or sorcery, which means we need to dump our hand here. We're going to Path the Phantasmal Image. They have to sack it. Bolt the Sin Collector has the highest power. Opponent gets to see our lonely little Teferi up in hand. And we've officially kept tempo with them. Getting to top decks while being this high on life total is usually quite good, although I need to turn off auto yields. Sorry, I didn't quite catch that one fast enough. Ooh, Mantis Rider. Alright, well, they always seem to have it. Taker beats for 4. Go get a fun land. And we needed white. Oh well. So the plan is Teferi, bounce the Aether Vial, path Mantis Rider. Probably upkeep. Teferi's going to die to the Noble if I wait. Alright, so let's bounce and see what we draw. They can still technically cast a Mantis Rider off of this mana base, but... Okay, so we can technically win here. Works for me. Just need opponent to not top deck another hasty threat. That technically works. Oh my gosh, I had to wait. I had to take a sick day from work, and clearly I'm not thinking straight. Now they get to kill our Teferi with the Noble. Wow, as far as punts go, that was a real one. Alright, well, I'm just going to run this out, and hopefully we find a lock piece. The clock's getting real enough, and I'm clearly not in the mental state to be doing this. I've punted twice really hard tonight already, and punts are normal on this stream, but not to this degree. Kimball is quickly becoming one of my favorite cards in Modern. There's just so many decks trying to cast non-creatures repeatedly. Not exactly sure why he brought it in here, but it's a fantastic card. He's been doing work. Alright, so if we draw a creature, it's basically just going to be Snapcaster and Lavinia. If we draw an enchantment, it's pretty much just going to be Blood Moon or another Possibility Storm. If we draw an artifact, it's only going to be Knowledge Pool. Alright. Oh. Is that enough for me to move on with my life? I guess technically any instant's going to get that back, but I'm going to take 2 more damage. We'll be going down to 7? Or I guess 5. We'd be going to 5. Well, we get to actually block with Celestial Colonnade now, which isn't nothing. But opponent's definitely keeping it going. Oh, and they don't attack. Alright. Well, I technically have to cast this. That is a Teferi with a Knowledge Pool. So I threatened the Celestial Colonnade here. I put out Teferi, and then Knowledge Pool, I'll drain for 2. If opponent attacks here, I know he'd still live. So opponent needs to top deck a Mantis Rider in the next 2 turns. Alright, well, we have hopes and dreams. Mantis Rider actually dies to Celestial Colonnade. But we die from the trigger from Kimball. This is interesting. It's turned into a very interesting game. Alright, well, Mantis Rider means I can trade with the Celestial Colonnade. You can resolve that. I make my dude a creature. I don't think I can crack that land and survive. which is so sad. All right, opponent. Just don't top deck Das. We have our combo. And it's amazing how you're still 4 minutes behind on clock. It's not like there's insane decisions, like did you top deck a Mantis Rider or not, I think is where you're technically at. I guess you could potentially have a Reflector Mage, but you have an Aether Vial, which means you just pass until I get a creature. I don't know, I guess technically Kitesail Freebooter is worth a discussion if you hang on until draw step. But overall, like, the board state's kind of here. If this is a Thalia, I'll be a little sad. Ooh, Meddling Mage. Alright, what'd you name? I mean, we have a couple of fun options. I'm starting to wonder if it was a mistake to put the Settle the Wreckage on the bottom. I knew I was going to be taking 2 damage from the attack anyway. Supreme Verdict. I guess that is a card worth tanking over. You need to figure out what you're doing. Oh. Okay, so what happens here? I Knowledge Pool and die. I can hold up Celestial Colonnade or just put out Lavinia. Alright, so if the opponent has a Mantis Rider, I lose. If they have a Thalia's Lieutenant, I believe I lose with this line. But I need to have one more chump blocker if the opponent decides to attack all out next turn. Because I'm going to be taking 2 from Cannonball, and then they've got at least 5 on the table if they attack all out. Deputy of Detention. Alright, I think that just does it anyway. Yep, it does. Whew, that's rough. Squatting on that Deputy of Detention the entire time, just tanking, like, that was a pretty easy decision. But, moving on. Currently 0-3. The red is probably a mistake. It's caused a lot of mana issues for us so far. The Knowledge Pool costing 6 and Possibility Storm costing 5, and actually having good cards to cycle into off of Possibility Storm felt like an upside. It's weird, though, that we've played Tron and the Mirror. I expected Tron to be a pretty easy win, but we just couldn't put enough pressure out. We need to have a couple of more of the top-end pieces like the Knowledge Pool. Possibility Storms being copies 5 and 6 of the combos, probably more relevant than, I think I did a 3-2 split. I don't know. You could put more cantrips in, go with the 4 Knowledge Pools, but costing 6 and being an artifact, like, in Modern, an artifact is such a real cost to the deck because it just dies to so many pieces that your opponents already need. It does dodge Stony Silence, but it doesn't dodge Ancient Grudge, Nature's Claim, any of that garbage. So you'd have to run it out already protected, which I guess isn't too difficult. I don't know. Lavinia is a little cute in here. Our opponent in the mirror did recognize that she is basically what this deck wants to be doing. If they try to cast something and we give them another cast trigger, then they spend 0 on that cast trigger, it gets countered. Teferi has been a card, though. Like, it made the mirror very awkward. Like, having us both having Teferi meant that we could cast sorceries instant speed and instant sorcery speed. And that was awkward. We only have Serum Visions in the deck as far as sorceries go. Big Teferi's always been a bomb, but at 5 mana you kind of have to just accept the fact that at 5 mana he can win the game. But I've been king of the 2-3 bracket with janky decks. Let's hopefully pick this up and close it out. If we lose this one, I might just drop the league. I don't know. I have been feeling kind of sick, so we can see. We technically have all of our colors of mana, Lavinia. It's weird being a lock deck that has just like random lock pieces. It feels like we should probably have less lock pieces and more cantrips to be able to find them more successfully. We're on the draw. Every time I've mulliganed, I've had to go at least to 5 because of mana issues, so I'm going to see how this does. Alright, and we're playing Cheerios, so Lavinia's going to be so good. Opponents trying to play a deck that's similar to a vintage deck. You end up just putting out Ceram or Pure Steel Paladin and drop a bunch of 0 converted mana cost things. If an opponent costs no mana on it. Okay, no, this is Spirit. Humans. Awesome. Meddling Mage. Opponent in the blind. Path to Exile. Alright. Well, opponent, we happen to have a bolt with that thing's name on it. Pew pew! Yeah, this is probably just going to be a Lavinia turn. Pause while opponent reads Lavinia and tries to figure out what the heck a Lightning Bolt Lavinia deck is. Lavinia does stop some Aether Vial shenanigans, but that's about it. I don't know. I didn't feel very much in control in the last Humans match. Like, we did always have the ability to just top deck and win, but I didn't feel very in control throughout all of it. 100% trading. Prevent all non-combat damage. They can't pay for first strike. They might have redundant Tajiks, but last I checked, they only had 1 in the deck, and a lot of people have been cutting it. I don't think it's relevant, but it's doing nothing in hand, so I'm going to run out the Ripple holding up Lightning Bolt. And random hodgepodge of cards are coming together. Alright, opponent reveals a non-creature, non-land card, so I'm just going to kill it now. Rather not be taking the beats for 1, because that's how this game's going to be determined. They do get to see what we're doing, though. And we are kind of close to being able to accomplish some things. Sorry, I had to cough again. I actually caught it that time, though. Ooh, Noble? Alright. So opponent really did not have a strong hand coming into this. I'm just going to kill it now. I have no intention on letting that survive. Noble hitting for me for 2 is going to make me sad, but it's not going to be game ending. Meanwhile, Teferi is going to be pretty good. Opponent does have 3 cards in hand, though. They've stopped running out their land drops, which makes me think that they have some expensive stuff. Tajik was, like, early when Ravnica came out, they were running it, and decided it wasn't worth it, because board sweepers were more prevalent than Anger of the Gods. Sorry, I guess the correct wording there is Wraths were more common than Anger of the Gods. Alright, so opponent was tapping for blue, which makes me think that they probably have a Phantasmal Image in hand. But I'm just going to Teferi. Plus it up. if they kill Teferi, they kill Teferi. I'm going to be knowledge pooling pretty soon here. Knowledge pool, if we try to cast it fairly, is enters each player exiles the top 3 cards of their library. Whenever a player casts a spell from their hand, they exile and then may cast something underneath it without paying its mana cost, which means that it can dig for me. Where are they going? Oh, Teferi? Yeah, I'm going to kill that. And we've officially taken control of this game. I just need to draw the other lock piece. Yep. Opponent's out of cards. We're holding up tucks. Back to how it goes. Rips come out for Snapcasters. Board clears come in for counter magic. Settle the wreckage. Technically a board clear. Also coming in for counter magic. Ship it as it is. It just feels so weird that we haven't been drawing our combo pieces. So if we put these side by side while opponent's trying to figure out how to board, we have Teferis, Lavinias. If these stop our opponent from multi-spelling, these force our opponents to multi-spell. I guess it's only 12 cards, but that's 12 of 60. I've seen like one a game. I guess I technically did trade a Lavinia off for a Tajik on turn 3. I guess I should probably mention. So Blood Moon can be good against them. It's not good enough to have 4. If they have an Aether Vial, it doesn't mean anything. Blood Moon does technically turn our counter magic back on, but that's not a game plan I'm signing up to play. I basically want to try to 1-for-1 their creatures, then Snapcaster 2-for-1 their creatures. And another single land hand. This deck is suffering from wrong half. Keep drawing the wrong half. That is so pretty, but bad. Oh, that is so bad, but here we are. Alright, so I need Serum Visions set up for land drops. I have interaction. I think that's the most I can ask for. The old saying is bolt the bird. This here's going to grab a Scalding Tarn. So this can grab a plains, this can grab an island. Or not Scalding Tarn, Steam Vents. And Bolt the Bid. Alright, and hopefully opponent has a bad hand, but they kept 7, so... Meddling Mage. What do you name? Because I doubt it's Lightning Helix. Alright. So I'm going to play the little game called See If They Have a Phantasmal Image, because if they have a Phantasmal Image and try to clone it and I kill it in response, it's a free 2-for-1. They have a lot of humans, though. I'm going to mute myself for 1 moment. Alright, sorry about that. So they ended up bringing out their Anthem creature, and whenever a creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. That is enough for me to go get my plains off of the Arid Mesa, and Lightning Helix Meddling Mage, so it doesn't get an additional damage point in when it dies. Serum Visions will hopefully draw me into another Helix or a Bolt. Wrath of God's also a fine addition. Gonna Serum Visions first. Got a Knowledge Pool, Path can go on top. We have the Knowledge Pool, so Possibility Storm goes on bottom. And yeah, we're going to be taking beats from Judith for a turn, but we're going to draw into being able to Wrath. Or Path gets around Judith, so we can Path Judith and buy a turn. A couple of different options. Alright. Alright, that's a late Aether Vial, but it does notably get around our combo. Take your beats for 3. I think I'm just leaving up Path here. I'm not going to Wrath and take 2 damage when I can just Path this and potentially be taking 1 and then get a 2 for 1 off the Wrath. Thalia still doesn't change the clock. Do you have a... they would have already cast their champion. They could potentially have a Phantasmal Image, but the 2 creatures they'd want to copy are legendary. Well, we get a Path, no Death Trigger. Alright, so opponent's basically just running an early 2019 build. They have their Path, or they have their Plains and Island in the deck. They're also running Tajik. I think I'm going to try to follow the same logic here and just Path. I guess I technically don't even have the mana to Wrath anymore anyway. The fact that this Aether Vial is going up, though, means that they can play around the Wrath fairly well if they keep their board state limited. Alright, so... there's another Tajik. And I believe I actually have to Path Thalia here. If I don't draw a land and can't Wrath, basically going to lose the game because of it. So I'll take my beats, Wrath away Tajik. The Mentor actually does get kind of annoying. Tajik also notably says other creatures, so I can still bolt him. Hallowed Fountain's kind of meh, but need to make my land drops, get up to this Knowledge Pool. Wrath away Tajik. Ooh, they didn't have a 2-drop. Alright, but that probably does mean that they have 3 drops. Either that or they're just sandbagging lands. This list shouldn't be running whatever it's called, the Horizon Canopy. So they don't just need to run out every single land that they play because they're not going to try to multi-spell and draw and multi-spell. Kemball. Yep, he's a dude. Well, we're going to gain back the life from killing him, so I'm on board. And I need to start considering if I'm going to run out this Knowledge Pool blind. If I run out the Knowledge Pool blind, it means that I can get the combo going, but it also means that the opponent can start bolting me. If they've been holding on to Noble Hierarchs, which doesn't seem likely, then they can start turning them into real creatures. So I think I'm just going to run this out. We signed up to play Knowledge Pool, so we're going to play Knowledge Pool. This just requires that I don't top deck a land. So we had Steam Vents, Bolt, Snapcaster, Thalia's Lieutenant, and Reflector Mage. Unfortunately, none of the cards that I wanted to see, which means that I'm going to have to cast a combo piece and then cast a card that was supposed to be the combo piece. I'm at least 2 turns away from the hard lock, assuming that I draw the card I want next turn. Ooh, that's rough. But this is whenever I cast from hand. Yep. Which means if they don't take my Snapcaster, then I can still Snapcaster Helix, or probably better yet, Snapcaster Wrath, or just Serum into my combo. I think opponent's trying to figure out how to resolve Knowledge Pool. It's a little awkward. So they cast a spell, Champion goes underneath. Yep, they were smart enough to grab my Snapcaster Mage. So they cast Snapcaster Mage, they have no non-creatures, no ETB effect. But now I can cast their Champion if I desire. More importantly, though, if I cast something, I can Reflector Mage Snappy back to my hand. Ooh, and I even get Phantasmal Images as an option now. Alright, so guessing opponent's going to go for Bolt here. Wish there was a way to expand this out. I want the Reflector Mage. He probably... Nope, he takes the Reflector Mage. Oh, you can take the Phantasmal Image too? Okay, you're putting another one under though. So it's likely correct to... Yep, makes sense. Anything castable. Alright, well, Possibility Storm is technically castable. So then that means Phantasmal Image. I'm going to cast Phantasmal Image. Make it a copy of Reflector Mage. Bounce Snapcaster back to my hand. Alright, so of note, if I cast Snapcaster Mage now, it goes back into the Knowledge Pool. But being able to resolve Snapcaster is going to be really, really good here. Unfortunately, opponent gets the option to actually cast whatever they drew, get a Reflector Mage, bounce this to my hand, hit me for 2, but honestly, they're probably better off going with the Lieutenant, just so that they can attack in over me. I don't know, it's an interesting game. Oh, apparently opponent doesn't even want to play it out. Okay, so let's see how far off we were. We had drawn Possibility Storm into Teferi, so we were 2 turns away from combo locking them? I don't know. It looked like opponent just didn't want to play Knowledge Pool. Either that or they top deck a land and figured that we had a win coming. Well, we did steal 1 from humans, so we're 1-1 against humans. Also lost to Tron despite all the sideboard hate. That made me sad. And the Mirror. The Mirror just seemed a little bit more effective. They didn't bother with the Possibility Storm or Bolt. They were able to play a more counter-heavy game and take the win that way. Alright, well, if we take our next match, we end up going King of the 2-3 bracket as usual. I don't think Blood Moon is worth splashing for in this deck. If we're barely splashing for Possibility Storm, though, then it made sense to try to get some of the red cards. Bolt and Helix have been very kind to me, especially in Fringe decks, just because they offer the flexibility to target anything that they need to that's a problem. Just a very powerful magic card. We also didn't play any graveyard strategies today, which is the majority of the meta, so the main board rips haven't shown their power. Alright, so this hand is a Blood Moon that's not going to get cast and a Lightning Helix. This is what your hands look like, though, when you register 2 6-drops and 6 5-drops. Ugh, that's ugly. I guess we keep this guy. Depending on what opponent's doing, I might actually try to go for this Blood Moon. Just going to lead on the Flooded Strand and let it squat. Opponent mulled to 6, so I don't know. Kind of pseudo-card advantage, but this is essentially a 5-card hand as it is. Alright, Colonnade means that this gets to be a basic, and I'd like to draw land, so I'm going to wait on it. Hallowed Fountain comes down. If this is Miracles... Yeah, I want a basic island. Then that at least turns off Terminus for a bit. Really need new Teferi, though. Teferi. People have called them different things. I'd expect it if it were Teferi to have an A in it, but that's just how everybody at my LGS was pronouncing it, so I kind of just stuck with it. And we have a Mana Leak and a Lavinia. See if this can go the distance. Yay, a land! I like lands. They let me do things. So for the time being, I'm just going to let this hold up any number of things. We are technically getting our chip damage in. We hit our land drops. Opponent actually missed. This might be a worthy mana leak target. Some of the best players that I've ever watched basically say that they don't want to counter random cantrips, but if you're getting a read that you need to, you should go for it. I'm getting the read that I could counter it, but... Alright, well they kept 2 cards on top. I think that means I'm going to try to lock myself out of mana. That white mana, that feels so bad. It also means Teferi's not. Oh well, whatever. I need to actually do something with my cards. They have a better long game than us. Hopefully we draw a Flooded Strand or an Arid Mesa. I can just go get a basic Plains. Ooh, you're countering this? I'm kind of okay with that. Hey, look at that! Blood Moon! Weirdest deck ever! Yeah, so unfortunately the opponent did leave 2 cards on top, one of which was probably a basic. I think I'm yielding until opponent does something, but I can shut him off. Alright, interesting. So, first things first, get our beats on. We technically have 6 burn damage in hand. No snaps in the deck, but Bolt Snap Bolt's kind of a plausible reality here. It's probably incorrect to tap my only blue. I could hold up Mana Leak. I am just ahead in this race, but... Yeah, that's why we want to filter. Having 6 damage targeted at a Teferi that comes down or something is perfectly reasonable. There's a Jace. Brainstorm lock yourself. Yep, this time correctly letting them resolve it, which is let them not know that their Jace is dead on table. Although they knew we had the Helix. Might have been corrected to run that out just in case they had a spell snare. If we get snared here, that's my fault. Guess not. Alright, Knowledge Pool is technically a hard lock if we get to it. Possibility Storm's actually a hard lock. I can't believe I just noticed that. We've been squatting on the mana for it this entire time. Opponent not having white looks like it's quite painful for them. Dovin's Veto. Alright, so apparently people are trying that out. Since I've been playing a ton of janky decks, I'm a little behind on Miracles. Another Dovin's Veto. Okay. So, what do I do here? I think I'm still just on Mana Leak and Bolt. We're winning this race. If I have to discard, I'd prefer not to show them the most, which probably means the other Lavinia goes down. Wow. Alright, Blood Moon locked opponent out of the game, but they are technically two colors, so Blood Moon comes out. We're not going to pull that off twice. Snapcaster Mage definitely comes in. I am a little inclined to keep Rip. Actually, maybe this just stays out. We played basically blue-white control twice, and I did not have like any dispels or negates in the sideboard. I went so long without playing it that I kind of just stopped making considerations for it. Remand's always kind of bad. It only buys you a turn. I mean, I guess this technically protects our combo, but we need to have 8 lands, at which point Mana Leak's bad, so it's you keep one or the other. I guess Remand's better than anything else in our sideboard. Ceremonious Rejection's not really going to snag anything. Core Firewalker's just another threat. I don't know, maybe it's just 2 Snapcaster Mages in with a Rip and their Ambush Vipers. Last I saw, a lot of people are coming back to secure the waste as a win condition. That would mean that board clears are live, but they typically do that end step and then kill you, so they're not really that live, but settle might be live. This is probably just most ideal that we can do it. Again, like, control seems fine. We have Teferi, we have pieces, we have make it so that your counter spells do nothing, make it so that your counter spells don't really do anything. But we need to see those cards. Alright, so this is a Rip with a Teferi, a Bolt, a Serum. This is everything I want to see in it. Opponent's like, I have a basic island, respect it. I could start with the fetch land here. I really don't think it's that relevant. Gotta be Serum Visioning anyway. A fetch land can still represent Bolt next turn. Path is awful. Mana Leak is probably worth keeping on top. It's not improbable that I try to cast this Teferi with Mana Leak protection. Do you have Opt? No Opt. Alright, so this must not be running Terminus. That's the read that I'm getting. And without Terminus, they likely have this Teferi in the sideboard. Everybody's excited for it in the mirrors. If they plus it, I'm kind of screwed, so I'm just going to hold up my Mana Leak. If they tap out for Teferi here, then I'll land my own, and that'll basically be game. Plus, when you're playing in the counter war mirror, you have to leave lands available almost every time that you pass, because first one to try to resolve something typically loses. Yep. As expected, opponent passes back. We can go get our steam vents. Yeah, this Teferi is just bonkers in the mirror. And this is typically the best time to try to resolve something you care about, is your own end step after your opponent's actually declared that they're not doing anything. It's hard to get anything that you care about at that step, but it is the best time to do something. Alright, as long as we're making our land drops, we're not really falling behind. Opponent probably has higher quality cards than us, but as long as we're hitting the land drops, we're doing fine. We do have Creature Teferi that costs triple blue, unlike Cryptic Command, but we do actually need to make sure that we're keeping those lands on top. And Celestial Colonnade means that I get a Teferi with Mana Leak next turn. I can still hold up Mana Leak if they try to go for big Teferi, or if they go for little Teferi with protection. We're basically just screwed, but that's life. Little Teferi means we can just double Bolt next turn. Little Teferi. Alright, well, We get to start it. Oh, I misclicked. I was supposed to leave the red available. Odds of this resolving aren't very high, but still supposed to do it anyway. And now we actually get to hit Little Teferi with Big Teferi, which feels like the best thing we could do here. I could technically double bolt it. Ooh, am I supposed to double bolt it? Opponent might have D-Sphere, but then Big Teferi can tuck D-Sphere. Yeah, I actually think I'm supposed to double bolt in Little Teferi. I feel so bad opting into 3 cards when one can do what it needs to, but I need to deal with this while they're tapped out. Alright. Bolt your face. Well, Teferi's face, not yours. Your face is fine for the time being, opponent. Alright, let's see what you can do. Please Field of Ruin me. Oh, that's just the game. Yeah, Little Teferi is like super busted in the control mirrors. So that static ability of each opponent can only cast spells during their main phase with nothing on the stack is actually insanely powerful. And pretty much the entire reason we built this deck. So, per usual, king of the 2-3 bracket. Playing jank, ending up on the trailing end, and then coming back and cleaning up. Or potentially just stealing a win. Or burning too bright. Like, a lot of our janky decks end up doing that. It's basically code for we can F&M, but we shouldn't Grand Prix. Or Magic Fest, whatever they're calling them now. But this deck, again, it's based on Saffron Olives list. And Saffron Olives list did actually pretty well a while ago. It was a very strong deck, and it did everything that it needed to. It has super budget versions. Adding the red is probably the main reason why this deck costs so much. Number 1, it adds Blood Moon. Number 2, it adds Scalding Tarns. Number 3, it adds Steam Vents. Like, that itself is a recipe for disaster. Big Teferi's probably not needed, but I did want a strong finisher. Saffron Olive's budget list was using Aetherling, which is a really good standard finisher. Basically, really hard to deal with. A single copy will get you to go the distance. Lavinia, I feel like, is a fantastic addition to this deck. Lavinia makes it so that you can still have a combo creature. Legendary isn't a problem, so you can have 2 creatures out if that's what it is. Attacking for 2 is a way to end the game. Our sideboard could probably use some work. I can't believe we played against blue-white twice, or the fact that we actually beat it without a single dispel, but opponent was trying Dovin's Veto. They were basically just jamming all the new cards, seeing how it worked out. I'm actually curious to see how that's going to turn out. Like I said, blue-white is probably my most competitive list. If I actually sat down and did all the lines, that's the deck that I would opt into. So I respect those people trying out those new cards. We ended up beating them with some jank, but basically this new Teferi is the Nutter Butters. Like, there's going to need to be a way to deal with permanence, and Detention Sphere is probably not good enough. And especially with Phoenix running around, like, Settle the Wreckage doesn't cut it, Detention Sphere doesn't really cut it, Oust doesn't cut it. Like, there's just so many cards that you can try to run, but none of them really seem to be able to deal with how wide the format is, and that's always been the problem with Control. I do think Knowledge Pool is probably the better version of Possibility Storm. If we're getting up to 6 mana, it means that we've successfully stalled out the game. I think there might need to be some more card filtering because Serum Vision's low and didn't cut it. The sorcery synergy with Teferi is probably going to open up a whole new world of things that I wasn't expecting, but I would need to like sit down and actually look at those spells to figure out what sorceries become playable at instant speed, but that also requires a Teferi. New Teferi is probably just a 4 of. He does so much. He turns off so many instants and allows you to interact with them. This deck's fun though. Like, I enjoyed it. Like, this combo is... I tagged one of my friends and I'm just like, dude, I'm playing Possibility Storm in Modern tonight. You probably need to watch this one because Possibility Storm is one of my favorite EDH cards. It just makes it so that it's really hard to deal with what's going out there. You have to evaluate board state. You have to know what's in your deck, try to figure out what's there. We did play the one game against humans where Knowledge Pool was basically me trying to like clone the Snapcaster Mage or Reflector Mage, get it back to hand, get additional casts. Like, I love the additional lines that the janky decks allow you to take, as far as like, oh, we're going to play some of our opponent's decks, and we don't get that with other ones. This is a very powerful suite of blue and white cards. They're on my favorites, and then we get to back it up with a couple of other things. Rest in Peace is the competitive main board graveyard hate of choice for blue white at the moment. But they also get things like Serum Visions and a lot more flexibility where we have to run static permanents that aren't nearly as good in a vacuum, and we need redundant combo pieces. I don't think that Rip is correct for this deck, although it is correct in blue white. Oh well, fun stuff. I really don't know what else I can comment on here. Basically, there's just a fun a ton of cards. You end up blocking your opponents out. We ended up taking the games that we took pretty decisively. We ended up going 1-2, 1-2, 0-2, 2-0, 2-0. I felt like we had at least some fight against everything. This was humans. We lost pretty decisively here. Then we played a little bit of an older list and we went 2-0. Sorry, this one was 2-0. Fun deck though. Lock people out. Prison stuff. I'm thirteene. Thanks for watching. Sorry I'm sick. I know there was a lot of punts earlier today, and that's 100% on me. But hopefully, going to be feeling better by Wednesday. Brad One should be streaming tomorrow. You can always check it out on Squirrel Dealer's Twitch page and any of the replays on YouTube and all the fun stuff. Well, thanks for hanging out. Have a good one.